This is Real Estate Real Talk, a weekly podcast about real estate industry news that actually matters, hosted by some of the industry's leading agents. Here are this week's hosts.
Welcome to the Real Estate Real Talk podcast. We're here today with Billy Parrott, a CRS and a broker owner from Billings, Montana. Welcome, Billy. I'm glad you could join us today. We're going to talk about all things marketing, social media, podcasts for real estate agents. I'm excited to dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey in real estate so far?
So I actually just celebrated my 17-year real estate anniversary, which was mind-blowing, actually. Before that, I was a advertising marketing consultant for a penny saver paper here in Billings called the Thrifty Nickel. And I did that for 7 years. And my real estate agent at the time who sold us our first house had mentioned to me, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting into real estate?" And I was like, no, it wasn't even on my radar. And I actually kind of looked at her like, are you crazy? Like, I love my job. I get paid well. Why would I change careers? And so a couple years later, fast forward, some things started changing within our organization and I just wasn't happy anymore. She had been constantly, bringing it up to me. And I said, you know what? I'll look into it. Let's look into it. So I met with the broker there, and after that, I took the test, passed it, and here I am 17 years later. Quit my job, and my boss at the time actually yelled at me across the desk and was like, "Are you crazy? Like, what are you doing?" And he even had his boss, who was off for the day, like taking care of a sick kid, call me and wanted to meet with me and had a whole legal pad of why I shouldn't get into real estate, and was sitting there going, well, this is why you shouldn't, this is why you shouldn't, you're going to fail, la la la, and was really trying to set that fear inside of me. And I just said, I've already decided and I'm doing it. So here I am.
And here you are 17 years later. I love that you followed your gut. You set out in a new direction and went confidently in the direction of your dreams. Just like that Henry David Thoreau quote. A lot of stories of how agents started out began with someone tapping them on the shoulder, like another agent telling them you'd be great at this. I'd also love to hear how you got involved with RRC and earned your designation.
Yeah. So I think I found out recently that I've had my CRS designation for 6 years. And it was actually a gentleman who was, I believe, an RRC leader at the time. He would come and talk to us at continuing education about why you should get your CRS designation. And he just really made it seem like that was something that I should have or should strive for. And then during our GRI, at the time I was going through getting my GRI, we actually had CRS courses at the time. And so that was a great way to, get the credits. And then I worked on my transactions and got my designation. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things, again, tap on the shoulder, like, hey, have you thought about this? And just constantly hearing the message of why you should get your designation.
When it comes to being part of the RRC community, what have been the most rewarding experiences so far?
Yeah, honestly, it's been the community, right? Like, I've really been diving a little bit deeper into the volunteer side of RRC here in the last couple of years. And I just really enjoy the community, but you know what I'm saying, that's involved because, being part of YPN, which is the Young Professional Network, it's kind of parallel to that. It's that same feeling, that same vibe. It was just a great transition once I, kind of have done what I can with YPN to step into that RRC. This year, I'm the Montana president for our state. And I'm on the Next Gen committee, and I just really have been enjoying it and just being part of like-minded individuals that just strive for the best they can do.
You mentioned volunteering. Whether it be within an organization or within your community, it's a great path for someone to give back and make their whole community stronger. Now, you've been in the industry for 17 years. Does your background have an impact on how you choose to promote yourself as a real estate agent in your community?
Yeah, so I have a theater background. I'm a theater nerd, especially musical theater. And so for me, getting in front of the camera was not a big deal. And I know that is what a lot of agents struggle with when I teach social media around the country. That's the biggest thing. And they're like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. But here's the thing, like and I tell this story all the time. I was told by a fellow national speaker friend of mine that I sounded like Gilbert Godfrey. And so had I let that stop me, like knowing that I sound like Gilbert Gottfried to some people, then I would never be, on national stages speaking. So it doesn't matter. I mean, you are who you are. You are what you look like. You sound like what you sound, and that's just who you are, right? You can't change that. And so just owning that, I think, is the biggest hurdle that people need to overcome. And then, yeah, so like that, I incorporate acting into my old videos. In fact, I was just telling a friend of mine, I went way back into my first TikTok. So I didn't really start TikTok until COVID happened. I think that's when a lot of people got on TikTok. And I looked at the first few videos and I was like, ooh, that's cringe, right? But I'm not going to delete them. I'm going to keep them on there because it reminds me of a time that I was going through, during those years. But I did a lot of acting, like put a lot of acting. I would act like characters in my videos just to have fun with it, right? So I'm taking that creative part of me and putting it into my real estate marketing, which seems like it's been working.
It's important for agents to realize they are their own marketing team. A lot of people are solo agents, and you're a salesperson for yourself at the end of the day. So it's important to think of how you brand yourself and get your name out there. I'm curious to hear how marketing in real estate has changed through the decades, what you've seen, and the approaches that you're seeing now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the positive thing is, way back in the day, people just weren't doing much video. And I'm seeing a lot more agents doing it now. So I'm glad to see that because it does work, especially short form video and just being funny. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this stuffy real estate listing video. It's showing yourself and who you are and just showing up. Like, so there's a few accounts out there that I like to watch. There's the tattooed realtor. A lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't show your tattoos. It's like, well, that's who that person is, and they have a huge following, right? So, yeah, I just really enjoy seeing that people are embracing that finally, that the video does work, and that's kind of direction they're all going in. So,
We're going to be talking about podcasting and getting your voice out there, but as a good starting point, let's discuss an agent's overall online presence. For many agents, they struggle with consistently posting. What mindset helps you stay engaged and visible online?
honestly, a few years ago, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I attended Social Media Marketing World, and it's a big conference all about social media. It's not a real estate conference. There's actually a lot of marketers that go to this, social media people that's their sole job is doing social media for businesses. And there was a gentleman, his name was Brock Johnson, and he's like a big Instagram guru. I still follow him today. And he had sat on that stage and gave us a challenge. And he said, I want you to do 2 reels and 1 static post per day for 30 days. And I was looking at him like, are you insane? Like, who has time for that? Right. And I was so overwhelmed. And I was just like, you know what, though? Challenge accepted. I will take this challenge. And I did it. I did it for 30 days and very consistently. Here's what I found out. So I was always stuck at this like 435 number, right? It might go up a couple and then it would go down, but it was always just stagnant. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? After those 30 days, I went up to like 2,200 followers. It was insane. So I was like, it's working. And what it's all about is consistency. And that's kind of what he was trying to teach us is that the more that we show up online, the more brand recognition of who we are and what we do for a living.
Especially with the algorithms and the way social media is always evolving. It really does favor people who post consistently. So that's something that all agents need to realize when they're working with social media. But also, what kind of content have you found that performs best for real estate agents? Not only to build engagement, but to also build trust with clients. You want to have the fun content, but we also need to be seen as somebody that buyers and sellers want to work with.
Yeah. So obviously short form video, right? Anything that's educational, you're providing value to those buyers or sellers or to the community. What's worked for me recently, we've had Some things happening with data centers, people protesting those being built in Montana. There's water rights things that are happening. So just talking about that for a minute and just giving people information. We had some property tax changes happening here in Montana, which is a huge deal for homeowners. And so I just turned my phone on, put a green screen, put some information in the background and talked about it. And what that causes that engagement, people asking questions, people wanting you to send them information. I don't do it to get leads necessarily, but it just happens organically, right? Because you're starting those conversations. Because then people will pick up the phone or DM you like, hey, tell me more. Like, what more do you know? Or they'll, do comments on the social media. And so therefore that causes even more comments because their people see their you know what I mean? So it's just like this domino effect. And then just being authentic, just showing who you are. You can talk about stories. Storytelling is huge. Obviously you want to keep out names, but if there's like real estate tragedy stories that you've dealt with, sharing those stories so other people don't go through those, like, here's the things you don't do when buying a house. Those kind of things seem to be working.
Can you talk about the inspiration for your podcast, Coffee Chat Live? If you could share some of the background information and how it got started, that would be great.
Yeah, so I started Coffee Chat Live several years ago. I think it's been more than 6 years. It's not like what you would technically call a podcast, right? But it's a podcast in a way. It was more like a video live stream, right? I just didn't have the RSS feed that a typical podcast would have. But yeah, and it's just to show that you don't have to overthink it, right? Just starting with something like that, just having a simple conversation with somebody, miking it up, putting it out there live has been really impactful for my business. It actually started, the series is called What's the B-Town Buzz, because Billings is also known as B-Town. Billy B-Town is my brand. And what I would do is anything new that was happening in the community, I would just go out there with my tripod, film me talking about it and be like, hey, what's the B-Town Buzz? What's happening? And that led to a coffee chat. And I actually got the idea from, if you have ever seen Jerry Seinfeld, I think it's Comedians, Coffee and Cars or something. I was sitting there watching that one day and I thought, hey, maybe I should do something like that, but have local business owners or people that are doing things in the community just sit down with me with a cup of coffee and chat for an hour and live stream it. And I did that every single Friday at 9 o'clock very consistently. If I couldn't do that Friday, I would maybe do it the Thursday or another day, but it was happening every single week for that amount of years. And what that did is people would look for it. In fact, I would get messages if I didn't do one that Friday at that time. Hey, where's the coffee chat? Are you doing one today? I've actually taken a little bit of a hiatus from doing it for a couple months, and people are still asking me, "Hey, can I get on your coffee chat? I've got this event coming up, or I want to talk about this." So it's been great. It's a good way to meet people in the community without feeling salesy, and then just showing that you're the community expert too.
And that's the goal for a lot of agents right now with their social media, right? To get trust from the people in the community, to get your voice out there. There's only so much that graphics and signage can do. It's great to see that agents are able to garner a lot of trust when they put a face and a voice behind the brand.
And that's just that your face recognition, who you are. Like I would be at the grocery store and somebody would be like, why do you look familiar? I recognize you from something. And may have seen my coffee chat because what would happen is the person that I interviewed would share it on their stuff. And so then those people would see me. So it'd gain more exposure and vice versa.
Can you talk about how you choose which platforms to be active on? There's so many out there. And also whether those are community specific or just talking about everyone wanting to grow their overall audience.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can be on all the platforms, wonderful. But, if you're just kind of starting out and you're feeling overwhelmed with where should I be? Look at who your target audience is and those demographics, right? So, obviously, Instagram is that more younger generation. Facebook is a little bit of the older generation. YouTube's just general, like everybody. TikTok also probably the younger generation, right? So, depending on who your target audience is, who you're trying to reach, and what platform you like to use the most, right? Also comes into play. So, if you're more on Facebook, do more Facebook. A lot of agents miss LinkedIn. That's something that I'm actually going to be leaning on more here in 2026 is being more present on LinkedIn because that's your business to business social media. And I think a lot of agents kind of forget about that or it seems boring, right? Because there's certain content you just don't post on LinkedIn. So yeah, just deciding who your demographic is, who you're targeting, and where you feel the most comfortable, And what's nice is that, Instagram and Facebook are all owned by Meta. So they have that great collaboration feature where if you post it on Instagram, you can make it just post directly to your Facebook and you don't have to worry about it. It just automatically does it for you. So
When someone's trying to start a new venture, whether it be a podcast or videos or something else, it can seem really overwhelming or daunting at first. There's a lot of details to think about. Do you have the right camera? Do I need a new microphone or headset or computer program? But to start, it could be just as easy as pulling out your phone and having a conversation, right? So, what advice would you give someone who wants to start something new, just like you did?
yeah, so, you could do something like I did and just do like a live stream interview type style. You could just do it with you solo talking by yourself. I did what we called the YPN Lounge Live, which was another video type podcast, and I had a co-host, and that was something we could feed off each other type of thing. So, whichever one of those feels the most comfortable for you, or you could do a mixture of all three. Start there and then decide what are the topics that you want to talk about. Like, is it about leadership? Is it solely about real estate? Is it about your community? Like, it could even be completely non-real estate related, right? And just be about moms. I mean, how many moms are gonna, want to, listen to your podcast? So just thinking about that, and when I did that podcast webinar, I talked about podcasts on a post-it note, right? So just take some post-it notes and write ideas on them, and just kind of flush some things out, right? So you would talk about your topics, what kind of style of your podcast, who's your audience, right? Who is this for? Those are all things to consider. And then just a decent mic, a good camera, is really all you need, right? And I did talk about in that webinar the different podcasting hosts that you can use. When I did my coffee chat lives, I used StreamYard. In fact, I just did a podcast with Sabrina Lowry. She used StreamYard to actually record it and do the video on. I see that you guys are using Riverside. There's a beginner's one where you could do Spotify for podcasters, and it's just like an all-in-one. Start there. And in fact, that's what I'm starting to work on is my own like RSS feed podcast. And so that was the information that I was sharing on that webinar of all the things I'm learning. So you don't have to start from scratch, right? As you're kind of going through that. So yeah, it's fun. Just have fun with it, honestly, and just start somewhere. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. There's a lot of podcasts that I've seen out there. They might start with a certain name and then change it over time, right? So don't overthink it. Just start somewhere.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there. We do use Riverside on our end, but there's a lot of great features with that software. We like it. Can you talk about the importance of promoting yourself and finding content that works on lots of different platforms and how that helps you stay relevant for different audiences?
Yeah, so you've taken all this time to do this half hour to 1 hour. I mean, there's podcasts out there like Joe Rogan that do 3 hour podcasts, right? And you put all this work into it. Well, why not repurpose that, like you said, and put it out there like, hey, there's little snippets, there's little tidbits that maybe the really good sound bites that your guest said something cool or you said something cool. And that's another way to advertise your podcast, right? So using software programs like Opus Clips is really great. In fact, I took the podcast that Sabrina Lowry and I did, I plugged in the YouTube URL and it clipped it into 20 pieces of content just like that for me. I didn't have to do anything. It put the captions on there. It put both of our faces. Super easy to do. And now I have 20 pieces of content that I can post at any time.
It's great to see how many tools there are that make marketing easier for agents. So, Billy, could you suggest a few tools to get agents started on marketing themselves?
So my favorite is CapCut. That's an editing tool that I use for my videos. I've been trying to use Edits, which is the Instagram form of CapCut, basically. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, just because, once you get used to something and you're comfortable with it. But the Instagram guru did say the more that you use Edits right now, because it is new and they're trying to push that out, the more they're going to push out your content. So I've been taking his advice and I have been noticing a lot more views on those. So just testing them out, seeing what works for you. But I do love CapCut. Captions is also another good one. If you don't feel comfortable just speaking off the cuff, it's got a teleprompter on there, different AI integrations on all of these tools to just make your job a lot easier. There's templates for plug and play on CapCut. So if you've got an idea, you just look through the templates, find one, plug in your photos or videos, boom, you have a video. I mean, it's super easy. Again, Opus Clips, super easy to use. And of course, my favorite, Chat GPT, although I am looking into Claude. That was another thing that they talked about at Social Media Marketing World, was using Claude Cowork to help, kind of simplify your daily tasks too. So I will start to kind of use that. So just play with it, see what works best for you. A lot of these are pretty reasonably priced. Some of them offer like a free trial too. So you can just try before you buy it.
I like that you keep saying just get started, play around, have fun. I think a lot of social media is just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. As you mentioned, you started off in real estate when several people were trying to talk you out of it. And then you started making videos, and some people made fun of the way you sounded. But you didn't let it deter you. You persevered. So, what would you tell another agent who's just starting to explore videos or social media if they're not getting the likes or views that they expect right away, or if they're intimidated to really put themselves out there? What would you say to them?
Yeah, but definitely progress over perfection. Like, it doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, again, I hate to keep going back to the Instagram guru, what he said, but it's always what I knew is just post it, post it, post it, post it, post it. Don't overthink it. Put it out there. If it's horrible, but at least you're being consistent with it. Just consistency is key, right? I think I post every single day. And if it's not a post, it's a story. And that's another thing I tell people in my social media classes they're scared to put their face out there, or they're scared to do video, is start with stories first. And that's, the thing that's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram. It goes away in 24 hours. And it's more just being you. It's not curated, it's not edited. It's just, maybe you driving to your listing appointment and you're nervous as heck, or hey, I just took this new spin class, I want to share it with you, or I'm starting this new diet, whatever it is, like start there. And just be consistent with that. And then the more that you're on camera, the more comfortable that you will feel hitting that record button. Because I see it more and more when I teach these social media classes, especially when I make them go live, the look of fear on everybody's faces. And then they come up to me after going live for the first time. They're like, that wasn't so bad. I'm like, I told you, like, it's just doing it. Just do it. Don't look back. Here's the thing. I don't go back and watch my videos. I do not. Because then I start to like, oh, I don't like how my voice sounds. I don't like the way I look. Oh, my hair doesn't look good. Just post it. Just post it and don't look back.
I know I'm my own worst critic, and then I end up overanalyzing the amount of views or likes.
Yeah, like the likes, like looking at the likes, or, the follows. Do not put so much emphasis on that, because people are getting more stingy with hitting that like button. For some reason, they might like it, but they're not going to hit the like button, right? So just constantly putting out there, because I'll have people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love your social media presence. It makes my day." I'm like, who are you? Like, I never see you engage my stuff. I don't see you liking it. I don't see. So it doesn't mean they're not watching. Just know that.
And I've noticed recently the algorithm, thus the engagement, is really different if you post a video or if you have a static post.
Yeah. Video for me gets more views than a static post, right? But what I learned at Social Media Marketing World is that carousels are really trending right now. So, those educational type carousels, and what that is it's one frame that leads to another frame that leads to another frame. So that's what a carousel is, in case the audience is wondering. Those are still trending right now. I haven't done them myself just because I don't like the work put into it, but Canva makes it easy. There's templates on there. I just prefer video. I have fun with video, but those are the two that get the most engagement for me over a static post. Unless it's a picture of my kids, and then those get people love my kids, so those do get pretty good engagement.
That's a really good point, too. People don't want to see things that are overly promotional. They want something personal, too. A family photo or talking about your day can make a big difference. Do you have any other tips on how to create content that feels authentic and not overly sales focused?
Yeah, I tell people this all the time. For me, I probably do more personal posts than real estate posts because here's the thing, your audience is not thinking about real estate every single day, but you want to remind them that's what you do, right? So, in case they know somebody that's looking to buy or sell, or one day they decide they're going to, they do have that in the back of their minds that you are that person, right? But you don't want to be force feeding it down their throats because they're going to tune out. So I would say just mostly personal stuff, share your wins, share the things that you're doing in the community, and then throw a little sprinkle of real estate in there every once in a while. Don't be a secret agent, but don't overdo it either.
So, being overly promotional is one, but what other common mistakes do you see agents make on social media? Do you have a list of common do's and don'ts?
Yeah, some of the things that make me cringe is talking about political stuff, because for me, like, I don't care what your political views are, whatever side of the aisle that you are on, but I would just caution putting that out there because here's the thing, you're gonna lose half your audience right away, no matter what, right? So those kind of things I keep personal to myself. Nobody even knows like who I voted for, where I go. So those kind of things. And then just only posting listings. There's a lot of agents that I see out there that that's their feed. If you look at their feed, it's just listing, 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 or sold, sold, sold. Nobody cares, right? And unless they're like looking for that particular thing, they're going to just tune you out. So I would just kind of caution on that side, not to just be overly, just listings. That's all you're putting out there. It's boring. That's just my opinion.
So, then on the opposite end of the spectrum, have you seen a trend or a post from a real estate agent that you thought was a really new, novel idea? What's the type of content that's inspiring you the most recently?
Ooh, there's so many. Like, here's the thing. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want to copy that person," or, I get asked all the time, "Why do you share all your nuggets of what you do with your competitors?" Here's the thing, nobody's gonna do it exactly like me, right? Nobody is me. And that's the thing that people have to remember. You are the only you. It's like a snowflake, right? We're the only person. We're the only us. So nobody's gonna do it exactly like you. You're not gonna do it exactly like that person that inspired you, whatever video. If you look at TikTok or Instagram, it's everybody's copying each other. Everybody's inspired by somebody, like a trend. I cannot like nail one down at the moment, but there's so many that I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, dang it. And then how can I put a spin on that? I'm always constantly thinking, and I would encourage people that are watching, maybe even time block it so you're not doom scrolling. I've caught myself doing that a few times. Just take like 10 minutes a day and go through a feed and get ideas, get inspiration because that's what I do. That's how I get ideas. And here's the thing too, what I'll tell people, especially those mamas out there or dads that have kids, they're your worst critic. Don't listen to them. Because my son, who is 21, he was looking over my shoulder. I was editing a video. It was a Bad Bunny video, during the whole Super Bowl debacle. And he's like, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, what? I'm editing a video. You're not putting that on your real estate Instagram, are you? And well, my Instagram is my Instagram. It's not just real estate, it's everything. And I said, yeah. And he goes, that is so cringe. He goes, don't do that. That's so dumb. So I didn't listen to him. I posted it anyway. That video got 2.2 million views and it increased my following by 2,000. So I was like, in your face. So just because they're younger, it doesn't mean they know everything.
Yeah, cringe is in the eye and maybe ear of the beholder. Your target audience is probably not a 21-year-old. But even if it's a little cringe, it all depends on who's viewing it, right? And I'm sure your video was awesome and resonated with lots of people, but there's no such thing as bad engagement. So if people are coming to your stuff and having a chuckle because maybe you made a mistake, you're still getting views, your engagement is still going up.
Yeah, and yeah, the comments were so interesting. I couldn't even keep up. Like honestly didn't think it was going to hit that hard. I thought, oh, maybe 1,000 views or something. But then it just kept going and going and going. I'm like, I can't keep up because I always tell people don't post and ghost to respond to comments. Some comments are rude, and I've had that question asked. Well, what do you do with the negative comments? Well, you can either ignore it or you can just say something funny back, right? And just kind of diffuse it that way. I never delete them unless it's like really, really derogatory. But yeah, I mean, you are going to get those negative people out there that just have nothing better to do with their time. So you can't worry about that.
Oh, definitely. Thick skin is good when posting online. You can't let everything get to you. And at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it and you're consistent, like you said, the numbers and community will follow. And that's the most important thing when it comes to branding and marketing. We're building an online community. Do you have any touching moments that have come from your online community?
Yeah, I've shared this story a few times. One, I had went to therapy for the first time and found out that I had anxiety disorder. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I turned the camera on and I talked about what I had learned and how things kind of made sense. And the amount of comments, phone calls, DMs that I got from that video was crazy. And there was other people that said, "Hey, I also have that, and this is what I did," or be just super helpful. Like nobody was being judgmental. They were all about helping me, and they would resonate with me, or they knew somebody that had been diagnosed with it. So that was pretty cool. And then another time I had shared my sobriety journey. I've been sober for, I think, 3.5 years now. And I talked about how I decided to stop drinking and why and all this other stuff. Same thing, tons of engagement, calls, texts. It was pretty cool to see that other people going through the same thing that I had no idea. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it was that good connection, right? By just being yourself and showing a little bit of vulnerability, which I think a lot of agents are afraid to do. They're just so about, I got to show this persona that I'm just professional. People want to know who you are as a person.
I'm so glad you shared that. Personally, I've gained a lot of knowledge and empathy from seeing people share their own personal journeys online. You can make really good connections, get some valuable support, make a good community by putting yourself out there online a little bit. Another thing I've noticed that you do really well online is creating a brand behind your name. You mentioned a little bit earlier with Billy and B-Town videos playing on the city that you're from. If you could give advice to a new agent, what are some tips or strategies you would give them on creating a brand for themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for me, the Billy and B Town, so when I first started real estate, I was at a big brokerage, right? And I was trying to figure out, it was like an office of 60 people. And I was sitting there thinking, coming from that marketing background, how do I stand out from all these agents that are on this website? At the time, I just kind of thought, you know what? I'm really involved in my community. I'm a dancer. I do theater. I've raised my kids here. I'm a volunteer at Family Promise, like all these things. And so I thought Billings was also known as B Town. That's like one of the nicknames. And I thought, Billy in B Town. That's kind of cool. And I was sitting there talking to my oldest daughter at the time, and I go, "What do you think about this?" And we are just kind of going back and forth. And she's like, "I like it. It has a ring to it." And so she actually drew my first logo, my first Billy and B Town logo, and it was like a Powerpuff Girl. I don't know if the audience remembers Powerpuff Girls, or if you might be too young to remember it. But it's like a cartoon, like animation, and she drew Bubbles, which was blonde, and she put Billy and B Town like a sign. And I put that above my desk, and I just went with it. And over the years, my logo has changed over time to what it is today, which is the city skyline, which is only like two or three buildings. But I just really wanted people to resonate with me. And here's the thing. There are like businesses now called B Town, and people will call me B Town. They're like, "Hey, what's up, B Town? How's it going, B Town?" Like, so when they see those other things or they hear B Town, they're thinking of me, right? And so I don't really have the answer because I guess it depends on who you are, right? But I would say the tip is don't get so stressed out about your logo or your colors. Those will all come with time, right? Just decide who you are. Like, what is your brand? Like, what do you bring to the table? Who are you? And then just kind of start thinking on that. Now you have AI. I didn't have AI back then. I just had my daughter to kind of bounce the ideas off of. But, just ask ChatGPT, put it in there. Like, this is who I am. What branding ideas do you have for me? And it'll just shoot out. It's not going to all be great, but at least it'll kind of give you some ideas if you're kind of thinking about a name or logos or coloring.
Like we said before, this can all seem daunting to an agent who hasn't done this before, but it's all about those small steps, defining who you are and what you bring to the table.
Yeah, because you are your brand. You are your brand.
Going further into that, would you say it's important to find your niche when it comes to real estate and your online presence, kind of honing in and specializing to build your audience?
Yeah, so yes, I do believe that. I'm obviously a residential, right? And I come from a veteran background. My dad was in the Navy. So I had noticed, I was really pushing out VA loans and I was putting out information about VA loans at the time. And people would start asking me questions about VA loans. Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking you want to target a certain kind of market, like whether it be relocation for some home buyers, move up buyers, whatever that is, I think hitting that hard and pushing that out there, if that's really what you truly want to be working on or working with, because then you're going to be seen as that person, that go-to person as far as that goes. And in fact, when I took that social media class, he had really talked about getting a niche, right? And just going full board with that to start, gaining more business. So yeah, definitely. Am I good at doing that right now? No, I'm kind of all over the place, but that's something that I'm going to start, nailing in myself, since I used to do that really well. And I just kind of been spreading it out lately.
With social media evolving, we have to keep growing and changing with it. There's always something new. I liked how you said your online presence started with a challenge that was given to you from an instructor. If you could give our listeners a challenge today about social media or growing their brand, what would that be?
Yeah, so I actually have a challenge at the end of one of my classes. It's a 21-day challenge, and it's basically try to go live at least every 2 weeks. That's nothing. Every 2 weeks, go live, whether that's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is for you, go live, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Okay. And then the other thing I would say is decide what kind of posting schedule works for you, because obviously I post every day. That might be too much for people, but decide what that is for you, right? So consistency doesn't mean it has to be every single day. Just decide, is it going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Is it going to be, whatever those days are for you, put it in your calendar and make sure you're posting on those days. And then I would say do at least 3 reels per week. And those are like videos, short form videos. Do 3 of those per week and do that for 21 days consistently, and you'll see a huge change in your presence.
Great advice, a good challenge, something that everybody could benefit from. We're about out of time. Billy, do you have any last tips or advice or comments for our listeners?
I would just say, like Nike said, just do it. Just do it. Post it, do it, go live, hit the red button on your camera. Start your podcast, start your live stream, whatever that is, just start now. Because if you keep waiting, you're just going to be waiting and waiting for that perfect moment, for that perfect time that's never going to come. And then it's never going to happen.
And where can people find you online to connect or listen or watch videos?
Yeah, so you can find me a Billy in B Town anywhere on TikTok. It's Billy in B Town, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. So all of the channels you can find me. And I will be posting once I do start my new podcast that's going to be coming up soon. So look out for that.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Billy. This episode has been so full of useful tips and strategies and a great challenge that can end up helping every one of our listeners. Just dive in, grow your social media presence and your business. Billy has been gracious enough to share really actionable insights with us. Thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anybody ever has questions, reach out to me. I'm an open book and I love to help.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us today, too. Looking forward to seeing you next time on the Real Estate Real Talk podcast.
Thanks for listening to Real Estate Real Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, crs.com/realtalk, to your friends and colleagues. Please leave us a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast, and be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous episodes. This has been a Residential Real Estate Council production. Join us next time for another edition of Real Estate Real Talk.